Welcome to How to Stay Married, so far. First one of the year.
So far.
Brackets so far. If you are listening to us on a podcast, we also put this up on our YouTube channel, the Sawalha-Adderleys, if you want to see us. Though both of us are deeply insecure today with the way we look.
I don't look great.
I look absolutely bloody terrible today. I've even put this up high around my neck, because my neck looks about 100 years old. So anyway, probably just stick with the podcast. Just listen to us.
I'm a week into Joe Wicks's eating plan. It's quite nice to have a little bit of a catch up, isn't it, at the beginning sometimes? Yeah, I'm a week into it, and I can already see that a degree of swelling has gone down in my head. It's just that my eyes look drawn. I mean, you can't escape the fact we're getting older and older.
We are getting older. One day there's not going to be any good days.
Nadia's lost 2 inches and I've lost 1 inch. It's really weird. It's really weird. Okay. So, yeah, if you're listening, you can subscribe to the podcast and you can like it if you like it. And obviously, everyone on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. We don't just do podcasts about relationships. We do all sorts. We do movie reviews. We do mental health chats. We do brilliant cookery shows, gardening films, and a vlog, of course, our reality show, which is Total Carnage. So there you go. There's all sorts of things. It's a veritable channel.
It is.
So I'm going to make a bold statement here based upon, there's always research projects and sort of, what they're called, research projects that kind of deliver these statistics like, this research project, often in Cleveland, Ohio. It's really odd. What's going on in Cleveland? I don't know, they like polls and things like that, don't they?
They do, heavy research and all sorts of things.
This isn't necessarily for
I
Cleveland,
haven't got a clue what today's topic is about.
No, so the topic today is, it's two-pronged. I'm going to make two rather sensational claims, or I've certainly read an article that makes these claims, and then we're going to discuss. That men are more romantic than women, and that
based on research from Cleveland.
No, I just said this isn't from Cleveland.
Oh, this isn't from Cleveland.
No, I just said that. We should do a whole podcast about whether we listen to each other. And so, are men more romantic? Men are more romantic than women, but are they? And do men fall in love at first sight more than women? This claims that they do. Okay. But we're going to unpack what that actually means.
They fall in love and first... I can really believe that.
If they fall for someone, they hurl everything in it and at it, and want to believe that this is the person for life. That's when they see it. It doesn't mean they see it with everyone. And it doesn't mean that they don't look at some women and think, just fancy a bit of a fling and all that kind of stuff. But that's kind of the assertion of this article. So discuss.
Well, I think, first of all, love at first sight.
Does it exist?
I think it has to be lust.
They do. The woman does say that.
It has to be. How? I suppose, what is your definition of love is the first thing. So if somebody's definition of love is to be so unbelievably attracted to a person, they find them so physically attractive that's all they need for love, then yes, I believe in love at first sight. But if love to you has a deeper meaning than that, well, then you can't possibly have it at first sight. But what I do believe is that you can have such a strong attraction to somebody that you will look past some things that you might not like to find a deeper level. So therefore you could maybe find somebody that otherwise you'd have missed out on because all the boxes wouldn't have been ticked. You see what I mean? So if there's a very strong physical attraction, you're going to look past some of the other stuff, like has this person got a job? Has this person got ambition? Has this person, whatever it is that you've got on your list? So I think that's where love at first sight can sometimes be, how it can be explained, maybe. But for me, love at first sight would only mean that I have a very strong attraction to that person. Yes. It won't be just their looks, because that wouldn't be enough. Right. It would have to be a vibe about them. So it would have to be, I'm very intuitive with the person. So I can quite quickly see somebody's heart and see if they have a good heart. I can quite quickly work out if somebody's like kind. And so if I've got that and I've got somebody that's really attractive to me as well, I'm going to be in.
I don't think I've ever looked at someone and thought, "Oh, you could be my person for life." I don't think I have had love at first sight. I've had attraction, but I'd be lying. I sometimes
Of course,
wonder
you've
whether.
had attraction.
Well, no,
I've had attraction.
and that doesn't mean that one hasn't fallen in love with someone quite quickly. And I never have that process where a penny drops and I go, I'm in love. You know, some people say that. I mean, when you watch these things like Love Island, all that kind of stuff, they go, yeah, I'm feeling flutterings, but I'm not in love yet. I'm waiting for that to come. Like there's going to be some eureka moment where the sword of Sophocles hits you in the face and you go, oh, I'm sort of something else might hit you in the face. But you sort of go, oh, suddenly I'm in love. For me, love is an evolution in you. You, as you said, you sort of put together pieces of a puzzle, not in a conscious way, but you know, unconsciously a sort of bigger portrait develops of the person that isn't just about looks. And I would be totally lying if I said that I looked at someone and ever thought, oh, that's going to be the relationship forever. Not even with you. I don't think I thought, oh, you know, I thought. And
What did you think?
Well, I thought.
What did you think when you first saw me? Did you
I
think?
thought, God, she's really attractive and she's beautiful, and I liked your energy, and I could tell that you were you were flirty, but it felt like you were flirting with everyone. So, but I also thought to myself, and again, so much of this depends on where you are in your life. I thought this will be a short-term thing, and I thought she has short-term things. So I didn't know you. I thought,
So when you thought this is going to be a short
don't lean too far back because then it's a bloody nightmare.
Well, I could be telling you about how much you're shaking your camera, but I haven't. I can see it going like that the whole time. I'm not. I'm still in the shop. So when you saw me and you thought, so this is initial first few times you saw me, right? Was this when you thought short term? What informed that?
An assumption that you would be like me.
Flighty,
flirty, one night standy, not in a great place necessarily in terms of relationships, and perhaps looking for a non-committal bit of fun.
So
that's what I thought about you. That's before I got to know you.
So this is quite interesting, actually, to branch away from love at first sight and the amount of things that we take in when we first see somebody, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because maybe that's, again, can give more meaning to love at first sight. So if you're in the right place in your life and somebody walks in and you spend a day working with them, okay, so let's say our situation, and you were at a point where you were really looking for somebody that you could settle with and have a life with, and somebody walks in, they're attractive, they're funny, they're warm to you, you pick up a vibe that they're more of a settled person too, and you find out that they're single. And then feelings could start to come up because your brain is saying to you, wow, there's lots of things here that have slotted into place. So then your heart opens more and you go with it.
Yeah.
And so maybe then when people look back, they can go, oh, it was love at first sight because there was a comfort.
Right.
Because there was some kind of familiarity that was met on some level between you. And maybe that's another kind of love at first sight. There's lust at first sight.
Yeah.
And then maybe that's another kind of love.
Do you think you've ever had love at first sight? Or experienced it?
No. No. I mean, I'm a very instinctive, impulsive person. Now we've all found out that we have ADHD. I'm getting a deeper understanding of that. And I am looking back more on relationships and thinking how much of just the way that my particular brain works has led me into relationships too soon, too impulsively. I mean, everything about our relationship, the way we started, was a disaster. I always call us a beautiful disaster, Templeton. Two impulsive people, two people that were in chaos, two people that should have been nurturing and finding out about themselves and strengthening themselves to then be able to go into a healthy relationship.
But in reality, no, it's interesting you say that. But in reality, I think what is within all of this is utterly unrealistic narratives.
Well, no, we say that because of the people that we are, but a lot of people do think like that, Mark. They will say, I'm not in a really good place at the moment to have a look. And I'm like, wow, it fascinates me. I didn't know even how to think like that.
Well, because
we both fell into one relationship after another, booze-fueled, instinct, impulse, I fancy this person, you're off, and I wasn't a one night stander, and I wasn't somebody that could just sleep with somebody and then move on. I wasn't that sort of person. I don't judge that. I have no feelings about that, but I just wasn't that sort of person. I think mostly because I came from such a secure mum and dad. So somewhere in my head, in my makeup.
But you could have rebelled against that.
Yeah, no, but just for me, in my makeup, that wasn't there. Like in my subconscious, it was like, you're with somebody that you're with. You sleep with somebody that you're with. And actually, it probably would have been better for me if I had had more one-night stands and not gone into relationships with people that I'd impulsively gone towards because I was attracted to them. And because there was a frisson, fancying. And when I talk to our daughters, I always talk about this, that the power of fancying can lead us to do so many things that our conscious brain probably would have another thought about. So anyway, so we threw ourselves together from a very unhealthy place and we've survived it.
Yeah.
So some people could say, when we got married within 4 months of knowing each other, I mean, people would say...
7 months.
Was it?
Because we met in the October of 2021.
Oh, I'm terrible with numbers.
October 23rd
Was it?
or 4th.
I always thought it was 3 or 4 months.
And then we got married in June. So
She knows the dates.
well, I mean, I remember when we met, the month and
But I was
the date.
pregnant. I wasn't that pregnant when I got married. I was only about 6 months pregnant.
Yeah, you got pregnant in January.
Oh, anyway.
Yeah.
It was very soon. It was under.
Yeah, it was quick.
And it was very.
Splitting hairs.
But this is the differences between us, isn't it? It's so weird. It's so strange because my mum is really like that. So I'll be telling a story and my mum will say, and I do love it about you because I love that you've got the facts. And then she'll go, no, I think it was da-da-da. And then I go, oh, was it?
Yeah. See, I'm trying to think back to when I suppose one of the other things you have to unpack is, if I haven't fallen in love at first sight, when have I fallen in love? At what point? I mean, not when, in terms of dates, but at what point did I know that I was in love? And I have to say, I hate to say it, I think because I felt...
People would say it to you, so you'd say it back.
Huh?
People would say it to you, so you'd say it back.
No, not at all. I think I've entered every single relationship and fling vulnerably, or with a sense of vulnerability, which I would put up a shield about, and would play the kind of, not in an arrogant way, but would be that flirty, quite sort of laissez-faire. Yeah. I take this easy. This is kind of what we do.
Certainly weren't like that when you were with me.
Yeah, sorry?
Weren't like that when you were with me.
And then what would happen is there would be a signal or a sign from whoever that person was that they wanted it to be more meaningful. And I think the problem for me would be that I would then hurl myself into it. And it wasn't that I didn't feel what I felt, but it was like a permission to feel. Whereas I would hold back on that feeling for fear of being hurt.
But also, here's another question. I've never asked a man this. I always ask women this, but I've never asked a man this. Have you always liked the people that liked you? Or did you ever really choose who you wanted?
Do you mean in terms of relationships or with people?
Because when I ask that of women, the amount of times they go, oh my God, actually... I think I like people who like me.
Well, I think
so. And it's kind of what you're saying is that I'm then open when somebody likes me, whereas a truly, really confident person will decide whether they like somebody and then move forward with that, regardless, and then see if that person likes them, and then it works out or it's not. But there are huge portions of humanity that wouldn't even dream of liking someone until they know that somebody likes them, and then it all gets confused as to how much they actually liked them, and how much was it just that they liked, oh, he likes me.
Well, I think, sorry, that's not me.
I
got her own thing to say about whether she likes a certain dog in the park. I don't know, I suppose I just think that whole thing of being liked by someone else is what gives you the confidence or the belief that you can take a step towards them to feel more vulnerable. I mean, I've never, ever had the eureka moment of I'm in love. I've felt it. I can think of, it was interesting, we were talking about heartbreak the other day.
When you say the eureka moment, what does that look like to you that you haven't had? We haven't said, oh my God, I'm in love.
Well, people always do that thing of, have we used the L word? Have you said, I've said I love you? And then everyone kind of like pauses and it's like, I mean,
that's a Love Island.
Well, no, but this is, you know, with all the gradations in younger people's lives now of whether you're with someone, not with someone, hooking up with someone, DMing someone,
talking to,
walking with,
seeing.
coffee, essence of, breathing air with, you know, I mean, whatever it all is. I just haven't had that moment, and I suppose it's evolved. And going back to, did I like the person? Obviously, I liked things in people.
Because you kind of just said you wouldn't open up until you knew someone like you.
Yeah, I would feel sad. Put it this way, some of the people I met when I was, actually in all instances virtually, before, and including you, all the people I met, the people I kind of had a more long-term relationship, and I would say on reflection I was in love with or fell in love with, they persisted more than other people.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean.
I mean, I
think that's true.
I don't think that's a bad
I think
thing,
that's true of me as well. I think that it comes from a place of almost of insecurity. It's like, once I know somebody likes me, then I'll consider whether I like them. Whereas how about just liking someone and not knowing whether they like you? You know what I mean? Punching.
Being the pursuer.
Punching above your weight, they would say, isn't it? You're punching because that person would meet, and people are like, what do you mean? I like them, I'm not punching. Whereas we're probably two people that wouldn't have punched.
It's weird because if I think back, so many of those relationships and flings and short-term relations and all that, they just kind of, I mean, when I think about them, they just kind of happened. Whereas, I never went for something.
Yeah, we never did.
Did you?
Neither of us
have you ever gone, oh, I want him? And...
Neither of us have ever done that dating thing. Where we say, we like this person, I'm going to take this risk, I'm going to ask them out, I'm going to go out with them. I'm going to go like when I hear about young people going on all these dates and stuff, I'm just in awe of them. I think it's incredibly brave. They're putting themselves out there all the time with this possibility of rejection. There was no possibility of rejection for me. And like I've always said, I've never liked a boss. I don't like somebody that plays games with me. I have to know that somebody really is into me. I have to know that somebody really, really likes me.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I literally can't like them. It's really weird. And if I felt somebody was a bit cool with me, I would just go off them. Now, is that a protectionist thing? Is that just sensible, or is that deep fear of being rejected, so not taking
or out
chances
of control,
or risks?
or out of control.
Yeah.
Or
control.
This survey, that was the word I was clutching for earlier. This survey, which this journalist doesn't specify where it is, but let's say Cleveland, Ohio.
The whole time we were talking, were you wondering what that word was? Because you...
Yeah, it was driving me nuts. I mean, literally like that, driving me nuts.
You've just said it wasn't Cleveland, now you said it is Cleveland.
No, I'm saying, you're not listening to me. I said she doesn't say where it is, but let's just suggest it's Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay, right.
Anyway, in this survey, 48% of guys tend to fall in love at first sight, compared to 28% of women. It's quite staggering. Almost half
I think it's
of men.
There's so much better looking women than there are men. Honest to God. A lot of men don't bother.
Right.
I do.
Okay. You think I don't bother most of the time? God, that's the longest pause I've ever heard in history. You have to wonder, is this really love at first sight, asks the journalist, or lust at first sight?
I think these questions are silly.
Why?
Because I think, everything we discuss, it depends what your definition of love is.
What, does it depend on what your definition of lust is?
Some gorgeous bird that comes in 10-foot heels and big boobs and a sashaying walk and has, baby, it's you, then yeah. If that's your idea of love, then it could be love at first sight. If your idea of love at first sight is a warm kitchen and an apple pie and a rosy-cheeked woman with an apron on saying, your wish is my command, if that's your idea of love, then I believe you can have love at first sight. If your idea of love, which is mine, is attraction, definitely, you have to be attracted to the person, and a real desire to know what makes that other person tick, that's part of what I need to love somebody, kindness, a sense of fun, ambition, not too much, a desire for family, a similar outlook to life, not the same but similar, a sense of morals, and all of these things are what I am going. That's what it's a humour, playful. All of these things are going to play a part in me loving that person.
Well, and I think that's why the statistic is a bit bent and weird, because you're right. I think men conflate love and lust together all the time.
Oh,
I think within a relationship, and I mean, love at first sight, lust at first sight isn't the preserve of men. You can just look at someone and want to shag.
But some people could have lust,
Yeah.
and that could carry them through their whole relationship,
Until it doesn't.
a marriage, and till death. So that could be that person's definition of love.
Well, do you want to know the medial prefrontal cortex region of the brain is what makes snap decisions about love. So this is the part of the brain you can thank for love at first sight.
I want to know more about the brain. That there's whole sections where you just... Did we learn this at school? If we do, I don't remember.
And deeper into the brain, which might be why this part of the brain is harder to reach. Deeper into the brain is the rostromedial prefrontal cortex, which is a segment of the medial prefrontal cortex, the first bit that says, oh, I'm in love with you. But this is a deeper part, which is actually responsible for determining your true compatibility with the other person.
Wow.
So maybe
it's
for
a
men...
physiological thing.
So maybe for men, the prefrontal moment, or the medial moment...
Sometimes so thick that you can't get down to the middle bit.
No, quite the opposite. It's so simple and thin that you go fast from lust to love. That's why men conflate the two. Whereas this journalist says that, like you, she tends to see a guy for his poise, his maturity, how he connects with others, and his looks are secondary.
But what I would say is, within minutes, you can tell a lot. You can tell a lot of that. So, say for instance, if you think about the two of us and how we met, you were directing, I was presenting. I walked into the room, you'd already been there a while before, there was a warmth towards you, you were lovely with the contributor, you made a joke with me when I came in, so I could already see, obviously, my subconscious was ticking all these things and going, oh, is this, of course you were easy on the eye as well, so that made me look more closely at the way that you were being, and you were gentle with me, and you had a nice chunky jumper on, which I remember, I love chunky jumpers. And so he'll be getting his chunky jumper out now. Bet you next time you see him, he'll have his chunky jumper. So all of that, those things that woman pointed out there, are things you can pick up. If you are somebody who's quite intuitive, you can read that quite quickly. I always like my brain to being a bit of terrible with dates, figures, anything. By literally, it's like a filing system.
But in a sense, you're saying that you can fall in love at first sight.
I can literally meet somebody and I'm filing about, don't ask me where we met, don't ask me what date it was, don't ask me any of that, but I will have computed a lot of those signals. But
in a sense, you're coming close to saying that you almost did fall in love at first sight.
No, what I'm saying is that information goes in, which may allow me to fall in love, but that information can happen fairly quickly.
She suggests that this whole kind of lust-love thing that men feel, so men look at someone, and the reason men potentially, you could say, therefore fall in love at first sight more than women is because of the idea of targeting a potential mate. So there's always baked into even just the physical attraction an idea of procreation. Sometimes I think we really do forget that we're animals. I really do think we sometimes forget that we have primal urges that we are not even conscious of or can control. And that's not to suggest that within that, we have social coding, we have a shared cultural understanding of what's agreeable and disagreeable behavior and all that kind of stuff. But I do think sometimes to pretend that it's like that thing of saying just because you're in a relationship you can't find other people attractive. That's an unrealistic thing. You can not be inclined to look in that way, and that might be more of an accurate thing for why some people feel. Well,
I think what it is you can acknowledge it. You can say, "Oh, that person's really attractive," but if you're committed to another person, you don't then go to that next place where I would if I was single, where I would think, "Oh, I wonder if you." My brain just doesn't go there.
But that's my point. Would you be, if you were single, looking at that person, would you somewhere baked into that looking at them and finding them attractive? Be thinking, could this be more long-term?
I never was in anything without thinking if this would be long-term because I never did short-term relationships. I never did dates. I never did one-night stands. I never did... I either really liked somebody or I didn't, and then it would, it would just discombobulate as time went on. But... everyone everyone was, it's weird because not that I wanted to be with all the people I was with forever, but the minute I didn't think like that, I didn't want to be in the relationship, if you know what I mean. So I wouldn't be, you know when some people are like with somebody for a couple of years and go, yeah, but I'm not sure if they're totally the one, I'm not sure. I'd be like, well, what are you still doing with them?
Yeah, I've never really understood
I just
that.
don't understand
Yeah,
that.
and in fact...
And because you're lady or man in waiting to see whether this person is going to want to know you for longer, no, I would be out.
Yeah, I mean,
because you might be able to commit and say in your head, well, I'm hoping this lasts forever. But if somebody didn't want to commit to me in any way, I wouldn't be interested.
Right. Well, this woman's incredibly sort of complex assumption, sum up at the end is, she thinks it's not so much that men are more romantic, it's just that they happen to like what they see. I sort of feel like I'm missing something very clever in that, am I?
Well, women will often say that men sexually are a lot more visual than women.
Yeah.
And obviously there's no rules and regulations in that, but I wonder if that is part of that as well. I wonder if the visual, not necessarily that they have to be beautiful, but you know, it's rare that a woman will say to a man, "Oh, can you put a jockstrap on?" But most men will at some point try to get women to put snappers on or whatever.
Right.
You know, so and generally men are more led to pornography than women are. Generally, more. I mean, a lot of women like porn, and that's you know, must always acknowledge that. But generally, I think it tips more towards men, doesn't it? Where it's a visual.
I just don't agree. I just don't think men do fall. I just don't think love at first sight is a thing. I think love at first sight is a totally fraudulent construct created by a society in which there is a huge amount of money to be made from, and cultural kind of advantage in promoting the idea that we can fall in love at first sight. So consequently, Valentine's Day and all that kind of stuff, it's all about, you know, has Cupid's arrow struck its target and all this kind of stuff. I think anyone falling in love properly, I think we can sell ourselves the myth. I think people will say, I felt it was love at first sight. I know people who've said, I saw him at a party and it was love at first sight. But it can't be, because love isn't about first sight.
It's for some.
Huh?
It is for some.
It can't. You don't know the whole person.
Some people go, oh, I bloody love them. I'll straight off.
After a conversation.
And they stay together forever.
But the problem in it is sight. You haven't even had a conversation.
That's only if that's your perception of love. Some people's perception of love is what they see.
But I saw you get out of a car in Leicester. I remember where it was in Leicester. And I remember the contributor, Dino.
Can you remember what the car's number plate was?
Yeah, no. And I remember you getting out and I thought, oh, she's nice. And it was the first time I'd met you.
It's weird. I wonder why you thought, oh, she's nice, because I'm nothing like any of your exes.
But I don't believe in types. Different. But none of my exes have been similar.
No, I don't believe in types.
No, I don't believe in types. And I thought, oh, wow. And you were very fun and you were sort of very fizzy and effervescent. And I was like, oh, right, okay, But I was not standing there thinking, this is love at first sight. And I wouldn't pretend to look back and go, it was love at first sight. I felt very strongly about you very quickly.
Yeah.
I would say that. But I do think, I don't know, what do you think, guys? Do you think love at first sight is a thing? I'd love to know. I mean, and also, perhaps listener or viewer, would you say you fell in love at first sight?
Yeah, tell us your story.
Tell us your story if you did.
It'd be nice to read some out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love to know if you've got a love at first sight story.
Yeah.
And are we talking bull? Well, I don't think we can, because we're talking about our own interpretation of it.
We're talking bull. I was like, I've never heard you use that.
It's our own interpretation of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Love at first sight is.
Would we feel love at first sight if we met now? I don't know.
Well, you can't say that, because we do love each other, and that's because of what we've built and what we've been through and what we've achieved.
Love changes. Love changes everything. Well, there you go.
Well, but love deepens, I think.
Yeah, I think it can.
Love deepens if you communicate with each other, if you keep up the line. And that's why I'm so grateful for the podcast, because when we first started this podcast, we were at quite what's that thing when you're at a thing when you can't cross over?
A hurdle?
No.
A barrier? A bump in the road? A sleeping policeman?
We were somewhere, but our communication levels weren't good. And actually, initially, when we started this podcast, I found it very, very difficult. Very, very difficult, because we'd actually got to a place where we weren't communicating.
Well, let's
as
not
well as
forget
we
the
had.
one where we stopped filming because of the dog feed.
Yeah, no, but I quite resented us doing it, actually, because I was so locked in, because I think we were not in a very good place in our marriage, and that's what marriage is like. But then us just doing it, but more and more and more, I can honestly say, and if you're struggling with your relationship, this podcast proves this. We knew this anyway from therapy and everything. But unless you keep talking and listening and expanding on what you might have thought before, your relationship cannot deepen. So the work is, yes, to make sure that you're attractive and you're listening to each other about what you find attractive and what you don't find attractive. But it's also about this. It's about talking and remembering. And even now, just us sitting here and remembering about when we first met and everything. It's just so important. We have the discipline of sitting, although we're not very disciplined with it, we are going to be more regular, of sitting opposite each other and having to have a conversation.
Yeah, and also, just finally on this topic, I totally agree with everything you're saying. But I also genuinely believe, and I think sometimes it's all right to just say what you think rather than kind of being, to quote Prince Harry, the whole therapized thing. I don't think if you have lust at first sight, the relationship will last. I think love, without wishing to sing a song, well, I think that a lot of dissatisfaction will creep in some place, surely. You want more of a connection.
I think you have to fancy someone first of all.
No, I agree that lust is part of it. What I'm talking about is, you suggested earlier that you can have lust at first sight and that can see a relationship all the way through.
No.
I don't think
I didn't. I said there are some people that believe, they've not gone to the middle part of their brain, that lust is love. But as far as I'm concerned, I said lust is the first part. And then I have to get all the other signals of what that person might have to offer emotionally, and then I'll move forward, and then there's a chance I can fall in love. But these things have to happen
So
first.
you move to the deeper part of your brain much quicker than, say,
I do.
Some people.
I think I do. Yeah. I think I go straight through.
Whereas I move through...
Maybe that, again, is something to do with having parents that had all those things. My parents were always very playful and with each other, and always very much a couple, and worked together, and were always talking. My parents have been having a conversation. This is something to ask yourself. Like Mark said to me, it will give us a chance to talk. I said, Mark, we talk all the time. Ask yourself, is your marriage, is your relationship an ongoing conversation until you die? I think a lot of people's relationships, the conversation has stopped somewhere and they don't know how to restart it.
See, so you go to the deeper part of your brain quite quickly. I can go to the deeper part of my brain quite quickly. But again, I think, based on upbringing, based on worries around the commitment of, or seeing non-committal relationships, or relationships that frequently fell apart with my mum, I suppose I can see the deeper part of the brain, but I hesitate at that point. Because, although I lived that sort of life of moving from relationship, A, I didn't want to be hurt, but B, I never wanted to hurt anyone. I mean, my raison d'etre wasn't like, I want to leave her. I never wanted to play games. I've never been interested in that gameplay. I clumsily smashed into the next thing.
You had a lot of issues, and your insecurity led you. I don't think you've ever been like a bastard bad boy player. I think you were in a mess, and I think that, unfortunately, whenever we're in a mess, there is collateral damage. And me the same. I know that I will have hurt people because I didn't know what I was doing myself.
Well, there you go.
Let's chat.
Yeah.
So, oh God, we've gone into complete darkness now. There's no sun. So if you're on a podcast, well, if you're on YouTube, you're probably quite pleased to stay with us today. But off to the gym now. Those that work out together stay together.
Yeah.